our first guest, foreign guest. That is Andreas Odendahl. Is that correct? The pronunciation is good?
Close enough. Close
enough. Okay. I'll call you Ode, that everybody knows for you with this name. So thank you very much for being here with us. And I'll start with the first question. That is the one that I use with everybody. Is a little game. So I will ask you if you can describe yourself with 3 adjectives or words as you wish, and tell us why you choose them.
Okay. First of all, thank you for inviting me and having me in your podcast. No, it's not a podcast. It's a YouTube video channel.
Yes.
YouTube video. Thank you for having me anyway. And I thought about it the whole day because you sent me the questions I had. And personally, I think it's not my place to characterize myself, because that's normally other people should do that. Okay. And so the only person I have contact right now is my wife, because we're in some kind of a lighter lockdown here in Germany. Yes. Because of the coronavirus. And she said, and I have to quote her, "I'm chaotic, unorganized, and nerve-wracking."
Okay.
But that might be just the case because we're very close to each other for some weeks now. So she might be happy if I'm going to work again the other day. Okay, but on a more serious note, I think yes. If you want to describe, if there's something that's very important to me, it's loyalty, and I think that is very important. And I assume, or at least hope, that I am loyal to my friends, to my family, and to whoever earns my loyalty. And I think that's a very good word to describe myself.
Okay, fantastic. So when the passion for board games started, no? Everybody has a story about it. For me, it was when I was young, playing D&D and HeroQuest with my brother. I lived in Belgium when I was young. So it was a way to bond each other when we were out of the country. So for you, which is the story?
For me, it's more like, I played family style, like it's normal in Germany, I guess, with the typical classics here in Germany, like it's Yahtzee and Pachisi, games like this you play in a family, but that never was something that got me really excited. But that started when my back then girlfriend, now wife, back in, it has to be around about the turn of the century, 2000, 2001, like this. Maybe we started to play games just as a couple. And we started with very simple games like Skippo, and I don't know if the names are internationally the same. There's one game we played the heck out of it. It's Phase 10.
Okay.
Phase 10. I have to look it up. If it's very, very, very successful game. And then we bought a game, which was the Settlers of Catan card game.
Okay.
And the rule was
the one for 2 players.
Yes, the card game for 2 players, just a 2-player game. And it was too complex for us. We didn't know, we didn't understand the rules. So we shelved it. It was in a cupboard for half a year or something like that. And finally, my wife, back then girlfriend, decided that she wants to take a closer look, and we went for it. And that was the start of getting addicted to board games.
Okay.
Because that was something different. It was thematic. It has to do with resources, and that's what we liked. And then it all started.
Having played Cooper Island recently, it's funny to know that for you, Settlers of Catan for 2 players card game, it was too difficult. Because, it's a heavy game. It's a heavy game.
Yeah. True. Yeah, but it was the start, and it's normal, I guess, for the start. If you're starting with a hobby, that you have problems with the rules, and it was just getting used to games like this, and then
it's a progression, no? You start with games like Ticket to Ride and Settlers of Catan, and then you go on. Yeah. In the first two board games that you did, La Granja and Solaris Mission, you worked with Michael Keller, is that correct?
Yes. Mike.
And for Cooper Island, you work solo. So I want to know for you, which differences you saw in these two processes, working solo and working with someone else, and which one do you prefer?
Well, the last question is a very tough one, because Mike is a very good friend of mine. We met on Essen Fair Spiel. I think it was 2009. We met on a booth. We both explained at the Gates of Loyang from Uwe Rosenberg because the publisher was new, and we knew the guy who published the game. And close for the publication of the game, I met Uwe Rosenberg, and we became friends. And so I explained the game on the fair for the first time in my life. I explained the game on the fair, and there I met Mike, and we started chatting about our own ideas of games. And since he lives in Switzerland and I live in the middle, maybe a little bit in the north of Germany, that was mainly friendship over the internet, over the phone, and so on. We met once, twice a year over the years, but normally we would talk about with email and Skype and everything you can think of over the internet. And that was a very, very fun time. We became friends, very close, and we had the two games that we decided to do as a team, and that was a very, very cool thing. But actually, it was also very tough, because normally as designers you argue about points, and there was no chance for us to meet just to playtest stuff. Like people do that live close to each other, because there's around about 600 or 700 kilometers between us. We couldn't just meet and talk about it over the table. That was not possible. And so it was very difficult, very long nights writing emails, having fights over certain issues as friends, of course, but it's very it's stressful.
It's challenging, I think.
Yes. And there was one point after La Granja when I was not so sure if it would be a good idea to do another game, but Mike talked me into it, and it was again very fun but very stressful. And after that was when we decided that we did not want to do another game together. Instead, we wanted to stay friends, because I don't think that this friendship would have lasted if we did another game together.
That game was too much.
Yeah, that was too much. But we're still friends. We're still in contact. We play test each other's games. We give advice, feedback on our games, and it's very fun to do. And I'm not designing games alone still, because everything I do is something I do with my wife. And that's she's very creative, and she gives me the feedback I need, and it's more like a teamwork of ours now. So I'm not sure what I prefer, because having done two games with Mike, it was very cool. I wouldn't miss it in the world, but I think it's easier now that I'm doing the games on my own now. But if you ask me what would I have done, I think I prefer a little bit to do it on my own.
Okay.
Because the time was just, it was nerve-wracking, really.
I'm thinking about something now. At the end of the La Granja manual, if I'm correct, you thanked a lot of people, and in between, I read that you had like playtester Stefan Feld and Uwe Rosenberg. For the first game, this is not something so usual, I think, to have two great designers test your game. It was tough to take your game to so amazing designer, or it was easy because they were friends?
Actually, it was pretty easy because, well, I became very close with Uwe Rosenberg at that time. Now it's a little bit different because he decided to start a huge family and has no time time for our regular meetings. So I haven't seen him in a while, actually. But it's the case that if you want to meet him now, you have to go to his home, and
Okay.
that's difficult. Because back then we were meeting in cafes or wherever you could sit and play test games and be left alone by people, but still be in a public place. And we play tested, well, once a month maybe. So it was just a regular playtest meeting. Normally we playtested his games, of course. He always had something to playtest, and I was fascinated by it. I learned so much from him in this time. And yeah, it was just once, I guess, we playtested La Granja. It was very, very in the beginning of the development, I guess. And it's very interesting, the questions you get from him. You don't think about this as an unexperienced designer. So he had many questions for me, he had many tips, and he had a huge impact on me being a designer. Stefan Feld actually playtested the game for a publisher, because the game was with Hall Games at the time. It's a publisher that published At the Gates of Loyang and Luna, and I was also part of the editing team of Luna, so I knew Stefan, and I was friends with the publisher, and he was also interested in La Granja, and he playtested it on an open gathering, and Stefan was there too, because they playtested, well, it was the time of Aquasphere. Maybe they playtested Aquasphere, and they also playtested La Granja. Okay. So it was not me and Stefan Feld, it was the publisher, who is very good friends with Stefan as well.
Okay. Yeah. So now let's talk about your baby, Cooper Island, okay?
Yeah.
Sure. I know that the name of your dog is Cooper, and the first player marker in the game is your dog, or something like your dog. Okay. So I want to know if the idea for this game started from the dog or started from elsewhere.
No, it started from another game. And the idea for Cooper to be the name giver of this game was actually by my wife. But the game had several themes over the development, but it always was something where you would discover an island.
Okay.
So the island was the first thing that was there, and I played, I don't know if you know the game Antics by the Fragor brothers. It's a game about ants where you have to move around the board and collect leaves and insects and stuff like that. And the game had an action mechanism where you have double hex tiles and you build certain levels like an anthill, and the tiles showed actions. So if you placed one of your workers on an action space, you could perform the action depending on the height of the level. So if I placed my worker on run around the board level 3, you could do 3 steps on the board like this. So in this game, this was an action selection mechanism where you build an anthill out of a 3-dimensional puzzle system. And I was fascinated by this mechanism. And I decided to try to use it in a different way. And the first thought was, okay, let's try it with resources. And I wanted to explore land by puzzling those double hex tiles, and then you would generate resources. So the resource would be placed on the landscape, and the height and the level of the puzzle tile would give you the value of the resource. That was the first idea. And because I didn't want the exploring of the land to be too wide, I immediately thought of an island. So every player in the first draft of the game had a small island, one tableau in front of you.
Okay.
It was not a connected board like it is now.
I think I saw some photos on Instagram about it, because yeah.
Okay, so that was the first idea, and it was actually, I only played it solo, as a solo game, because I didn't have an action selection mechanism back then, because I was only puzzling, generating resources, building, and stuff like that. That was the first draft.
Okay.
So that's where the idea came from.
Okay, and about it, you used Instagram a lot to talk about the development of this game. So I want to know. Sometimes this is strange, no? Because a lot of board game designers, they take their ideas very carefully out in the world, because they fear to have them stolen by other persons. So why you choose to use so much social network to talk about your game in the development?
The first idea to do that was actually that I wanted proof that this idea was mine.
Okay.
So I show it publicly. I designed this and that, and I show it, and now I have proof that I designed it in, I don't know, 2012. And if there would be another game, another designer picking up on this idea, I could show him, no, that's my idea, and you cannot take it because I did it first, and I have a contract here with the Frosted Games. I'm doing this game now. You cannot use this mechanism. This was the first idea, to be certain that I have proof that some ideas are not, because if you keep it private to yourself, you have no proof. You can tell everybody, but nobody would believe you.
Well,
that was the first idea, and actually I'm kind of internet nerd, so it's fun. I don't have this. How do I say it? I don't need to keep my ideas private. I don't care about this. Some publishers are very private about what they publish next, and to publish pictures on Board Game Geek and what about the comments they get. They're very cautious about that, but I don't care about stuff like that. I just post it, and I cannot control what people think of it, so I don't care about it.
Well, from a viewer point of view, it was fun, because I followed the Cooper Island process about 2 years ago, I think. And it was fun to see the development photo by photo. And to see the final result, it was really, really good.
I just remembered back when Vital Lacerda was working on Vineyards.
Yes.
He very early published photos of his prototype on Board Game Geek, and I was very interested in it. I was looking forward to the game for a very long time. And then I finally heard, okay, a publisher picked it up, and I was very happy about it. And yeah, maybe that's something I'd like people to experience as well. Because I don't care if it's published 2 weeks before publication. That's not my business. I'm a nerd. I'm a geek. I'm not a business. I'm not a business guy. I'm totally 100% into the hobby, and that's what I do.
Well, if you think about it from a viewer perspective, it's like a Kickstarter, no? You try to see something new day by day, and then they make the game. So it's a Kickstarter without Kickstarter, right?
Okay, so you mean to build up tension before the publication, so everybody knows about the game,
like yes,
to create a hype and all that. That's nothing I have in mind, actually.
No.
I don't care about that.
Okay.
Yeah, but maybe someone can think that. Yeah, that's something I cannot control. You know, people might think everything, maybe think bad of me because I'm doing that, but that's nothing I can control. So I'm just doing it because I love to. I think it's fun to be on social networks, and it's just what I do.
So I want you talked about the board game cafes or something like that you went with Uwe Rosenberg to play and play test. Something like this in Italy is utopia at the moment. We have a few, and only in big cities. So I want to know how is seen the board game industry in Germany, and why do you think it's so different from every other country in Europe? Maybe just France is on the same level as Germany right now. What do you think?
Oh, that's a tough question. First of all, the cafes I went to Uwe with, it was just a cafe.
Okay.
So people go there to eat cake and drink coffee, and we were always what are those strange guys playing some? So people, it was not a board game cafe. It was just a regular cafe with a nice lady behind the counter giving us coffee every half an hour. But yeah, why is Germany so big? I guess I can only guess. I have no proof of that, or it's just a theory that games in the 90s that got published in Germany were very huge. So it was Settlers of Catan, of course, that changed the whole board game scene, and it was a German game. And well, I can actually think of no other game that was important like that for the modern style of board games. And for years, people just called games like that German games. And then more European countries took over this style of games. And first, I guess it was a French company like History that was big in this segment to publish German games as well.
Yes.
And then there were some Italian designers very famously, and then it became Eurogames. But now I guess Eurogame is maybe a little bit more like the big, the complex ones. I guess if you call something a Eurogame, you expect it to become complex and maybe 90 to 150 minutes. Do you use still the term German games in Italy?
Yes, of course. Yes.
Yeah.
A lot. Yes. There's this difference between American and German games. It's not Europe. Yeah. We use it a lot. So every game with resources and difficult mechanism is a German, and every game with dice and a lot of alea is an American or Ameritrash if you don't love them.
Well, I think it's not always said in a bad way that it's Ameritrash.
No.
But here in Germany, we actually call it Eurogames, no longer German games. Oh, actually, we never call it German games. It's just a term that was used in other countries.
In other countries, but, okay.
Yeah, but we took over the Eurogame. If you want to describe a game and you say it's a Eurogame, that's very common in Germany. Yeah.
Okay.
Most people also say soulless Euro games, but who cares?
Who cares? So you talked about a lot of great designers, and so I want to ask you, if you could choose one designer to work with, who would you choose?
Yeah, that's also a question you sent me per email, and I'm still have no answer to this because, well, the answer might be that I would choose nobody because I'm impossible to work with.
Okay. Okay.
I wouldn't do this to any other guy because it's very hard to get along with me. I'm complicated.
Okay.
I'm always right. I need to change.
So your wife is the only one for the job?
Yeah, actually she was, and Mike was pretty good in the end with it as well. Yeah. Actually, we're thinking about doing another game together, and I guess that's because he's capable of working with me. I tried. Well, I think I'm very open for working with other designers, but you have to talk about the style of working before that. I know that now. Back then, I jumped into every opportunity to work with other designers, but now I know that I'm not the easiest guy to work with. So I don't normally think about that. And I have to say that I'm just a hobby guy, so I do this on my free time.
Okay.
And it's very much to do. And I'm not working on too many games actually. So Cooper Island took me 4 years, and I haven't had many games beside that. It's all I could. It's every time, all the time I had in my free time went into Cooper Island, and there's no much room
Space
for
other
yeah.
games. Okay.
Actually, that's true. Yeah.
And so now my last question is, which project do you have for the future?
Yeah, that's very complicated because I just told you that I don't have many games, but actually now I have, because Cooper Island took me 4 years, like I said, and I needed some time off
Okay.
after the game was published because it was very much work, and I just needed the time off. And I didn't do anything until February, maybe March. But by now I have around about 7 or 8 games I'm working on in different stages.
Okay.
So right now with the Corona lockdown, I'm very creative, and I started designing a lot of games. They're all not in a you can only playtest one of them, no, 2. The rest is just in my head, or at a certain stage I started crafting the prototypes, but I haven't still played them with my wife, which is normally the first playtester for me. Before I start playtesting with her, I playtest the games all by myself, and then when I think it's the right time, I go to her, and she has to play it with me, of course, if she wants or not. And well, if I'm sure enough that the game is good enough to show to other people, then I would go to other people as well. But none of the games is in that stage right now because it's very early in the development.
Okay.
So I have one game that is about well, how do you say in English? Well, the German term is Binnenschifffahrt. Well, I'm looking it up.
Okay.
Let me just. Oh, inland water transport. So inland water transport is you use ships to go over the channel and to connect cities and transport goods. So this is also a game that uses a dice drafting mechanism.
Okay.
Actually, it's a game I'm working on with Matthias Kramer.
Yeah. Okay.
It is an old prototype of his, and he's not into Euros anymore, so he's not interested in designing this optimization Euro type resource management games any longer. He's more into other type of games, and so he said, "You can have it."
Okay.
Though we worked the both of us on it, and he decided to forfeit the game, and so I'm working on it right now. Then there's another game about mining salt. Actually, that's a very personal one because it is about my hometown.
Okay.
There's Celine. I don't know if you know that term. It's a pre-industrial salting production where you mine sole, that's salt water, and then you cook it and you get salt.
Yes.
And the game is about building up a saline with, I don't know the right term for this, graduation tower, I guess. That's a pre-industrial technique that you build huge houses that have wood in it, and you let the water drop through the wood. So the water would be taken away by the wind. So the salt water gets more salt in it. So this is before you cook the water to get the salt. Okay. You try to raise the number of salt that's in the water. And therefore you have to build huge towers. And the game is about building those towers and processing the sole into being fit for being cooked, and then you have the salt and then you sell it and so on. That's another game. And yeah, actually there's one game that's the one we play tested last week, and that's actually one game I don't want to talk about because that's a very secret project. Then I have two roll and write games. One is more an abstract roll and write, like or just some colors and you make crosses and then you get points for combining it, and a very abstract, no theme. Maybe like Quicks and Encore.
Yes.
Maybe it's a family style roll and write with no theme. Then there's another roll and write that's very complex. It has a theme. I play tested it yesterday for the first time, so nothing that I could show even to my wife. She wouldn't play it with me because it's not that far. What do I have now? Then I have a small card game, engine building card game that uses different card mechanics. That should be not too complex, maybe 60 minutes to play. Well, it's all the project. I'm working on them. I'm just a hobby guy. So whenever I have the feeling I want to work on a game, I work on it.
Yes.
I do it. And then 2 weeks later, normally you can already play test it.
Okay.
So I'm normally working very hard for a short time on a game, and then it's at a stage where you can already play it. And well, then I have to change something, and then I lose interest. So I shelf it. It goes away on the shelf, and I have to think about it. And normally, when I'm doing other projects, then there's an idea for the game I shelved. Okay, then I take it back, and then I work on it again. And so it might take some time before you see one of them.
Okay, so maybe we can thank the lockdown if we have a older game before 4 years like Cooper Island. right?
Maybe. I just told a friend of mine that maybe when we come out of lockdown, there is a good chance that we have to play test a couple of games. But I don't know how long it will take with this stupid virus. So maybe I have to really think about implementing some online tool to playtest online. Like a friend of mine does it already. Carsten Lauber, he published Crystal Palace this year.
Yes.
He is very, he used Tabletopia to playtest it, and some friends of mine playtested his newest game with him on this platform. Maybe I should ask him how he does this.
Last week, I talked with Virginio G and Flaminia Brasini, the author of Coimbra and Lorenzo, and they said that they use tabletop simulator. So I think in this period, a lot of designers use Tabletopia or tabletop simulator to try to playtest their games.
Actually, those two people, Flaminia and
Virginio,
those are heroes of mine because I grew up with their games. I played Maestro Leonardo,
yes,
Communi. Egizia is one of my top titles, and they published so many great games. Leonardo, how's it?
Lorenzo.
Lorenzo Il Magnifico is one of my favorite games, and Coimbra as well. Those two games, wow, I love them.
I'll say to them that
awesome
you love them.
Awesome designers. You know them personally?
Yes, I know them personally because they live in Rome, and I'm in a city near Rome, Latina. So I know them personally because they're a friend of a friend, and so we met once and we share some thoughts about board games sometimes, and they were kind enough to do an interview with me last week. So
you said you have a board game shop in Italy. So do you have like open nights for board gaming in your shop?
Yes. Before the lockdown, yes.
Yeah, we have something like that here in a city nearby as well, and that's always a good thing. You can invite them so they come play test their games.
They came the last time they came. They play tested Golem. That is the new game they are making with Luciani, the author of Tolkien and the Voyages of Marco Polo, and so it was great, a great night.
Okay. Yeah.
So I hope to see you soon in our shop. It would be a really pleasure.
The last time I was in Italy was 1995.
Okay, a lot of time ago.
When I was still in school, and it was our school journey for 1 week. We were in Tuscany.
Yes,
Tuscany. Yeah. I won't ever forget it. This is a beautiful country.
Thank you. So thank you very much for being our guest tonight, and
thank you for having me.
Thank you, and see you guys next week. Bye. Vi rinnovo l'appuntamento tutte le domeniche, ore 12, canale YouTube Il Quinto Elemento per Domeniche d'autore. Ciao!